there is this incredible backwards thinking that takes place in America to the point that it has been so normalized that most people don't even think there is another way of viewing things. So let's say that you have a warehouse and you want to hire someone to stack packages in your warehouse. Now, when you put the job out there, let's say that there's 8 men that apply and 2 women. So you only need 4. Like how are you going to decide who gets the job? Well, you ask them, it's like, okay, can you guys lift this package? And you put like a medium-sized package that's from the warehouse and you see that people are lifting it. And the people that lift it the easier, those are the ones that get the job, okay? Americans will consider that to be incredibly sexist and disparaging. Because the result has only selected men, it means that your test, the test itself, is misogynistic, okay? Only a misogynistic pig would put such a test. So you now need to change the test. Like this is mental retardation. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to call it. It's like people can get injured if you allow them to perform a job that they're not adequately trained for. Not to mention, like, the people that can do the job are now going to have to work twice as hard to put up for the colleagues that cannot. Right? So, in other parts of the world, it's not like that. Like, in other parts of the world, like, let's say in Romania, you have the test, and, like, someone notices that there's a lot of men working at the company, but very few women. Let's say there's actual lawsuits or disagreements, they will look at, okay, so were there women that applied? And you're like, yeah. Did you allow them to perform the test? And you're like, yes. Did they succeed? No. Okay, well, there's no discrimination here, right? Like, maybe like this job is not for them, that there's other career opportunities, right? You don't have to work in a warehouse. I wouldn't pass the test either. I'm a chubby guy myself, right? I don't do a lot of manual labor. I probably wouldn't be able to lift the thing. That doesn't mean that the test is discriminating towards Romanians. Doesn't mean that it's discriminating towards me in particular. It just means that I'm not fit for that particular job. So anyway, right, why am I even saying this? Well, apparently there are layoffs in the AAA industry. And the reason there are layoffs in the AAA industry is because they can't sell shit. They can't sell a product. They have become the laughingstock of the entertainment. With the fact that many games that were released didn't even work on launch. I mean, Suicide Squad, for example, they had like this deluxe edition where if you bought it, you could play it 10 days earlier. Didn't work, so many people paid the money for nothing. You had many video games that were broken since day one. Like, you couldn't even launch them, like Gollum, I think it was called Redfall or some shit. Like all of these games had massive problems, right? And I'm not even talking about the games themselves and how little some people enjoy them. So it's obvious, like, if you can't sell the product, well, you're not going to make money. You can't make money, you can't pay wages. You can't pay wages, you gotta fire people. It's not rocket science. This is why it's interesting. All of these people giving sass on Twitter and being very disparaging to the customer, all of a sudden have shut the fuck up. I haven't got sass on Twitter from a game developer for 2 years now. I wonder why. Maybe they finally figured out, oh shit, this gravy train actually comes from the consumer. Like, I actually need to encourage people to buy the product, even if I'm not directly paid in percentages for sales. If I want to have a job, I need to make sure that I get the company to be able to sell the product. So, as you can see, there were studies, like to see if people are affected by this. Right? And if so, which race, which group, which demographic? Like, again, Americans already, they summoned the Nazis because they care about the gender, the pedigree, the heritage, the cock and pussy. I mean, a systemically racist country is going to do this, obviously, right? And they found out that, well, actually, they're not firing people based on race, right? Like most people that are affected are not based on race. They're affected based on gender, right? So women, apparently. And this study was done in the UK, but apparently it's the same in other companies as well, even in the United States, France. It's the same thing everywhere. And I have to say it's a little bit misleading, because it makes it sound as if women can't create entertainment. And that's just not true, because you look at Japan, and you notice that some of the greatest mangas that are coming out, and even some anime, is directed by women. In fact, I was even having a discussion with an artist, and I was pointing out that when you look at a manga that's drawn by a woman, you will notice that there's a huge attention of detail on the breasts and on the clothing. And usually the men are in the dominant position. It's like almost every single time. And he was like, you know what? Like, apparently that's true. Yeah, it's an interesting observation. But my point is that there are successful women in the entertainment industry. There was Amy Hennig, which managed to do some of the most amazing games. I think she worked on The Last of Us 1. But, like, I'm not entirely sure with that title. I would have to check. But I'm definitely sure that she worked on Uncharted. And I'm also positive sure that she worked on the Legacy of Kain series. Games that I grew up with and were amazing at the time. What happened to her? Where is Amy Hennig now? Well, she was very beloved by gamers everywhere, like a woman with a lot of expertise under her belt. But she actually had an interview once saying that, yeah, I don't think that gamers are misogynistic. I was never treated disrespectfully in the industry. This is a merit-based industry. If you know what you're doing, you're going to get to the top. She was sacked. I mean, they got rid of her. Neil Druckmann took her place. Hey, male feminist, talking about empowering women, gets to replace a woman. Another example is Gina Carano. Gina Carano from Disney. Great actress, did the part very well, was actually convincing. Like she was playing this mercenary lady that was very strong, like looked convincing on the screen. Like I could actually say, yeah, you know what, like with her build and with the way that she was dressed and her behavior, not only is she feminine, but yeah, like she could definitely play the role of a soldier. They got rid of her. Why? Political opinions. Despite the fact that the fans absolutely loved her, Disney didn't like her. Who does Disney likes? Rachel Ziegler, the one that plays Snow White and hates the IP. Like she hated the story Snow White. Meanwhile, Gina Carano, she loved the IP. She loved Star Wars. So you can see that they weren't hiring simply based on gender. They were hiring based on ideology and gender. And they were also hiring based on percentages. Like, imagine this. If you have a World of Warcraft guild and I tell you you need to have 50% Redditors in it. Like, you can't hire anyone. You need to have 50% people that have Reddit accounts. Think about, like, how many actual people with talent you're going to be passing on just to fit that quota. Like, when you put an artificial quota that's anything besides merit, you're going to end up with shitty business practices. Because, like, you didn't hire on merit. You hired on something else. You hired people who have Reddit accounts. There's a lot of World of Warcraft players that don't. They may be quite good. In fact, probably some of the best don't have it because they don't have the time to sit on Reddit. They're playing their character and they're learning the game. So my point is, when you look at who the people got hired, they got hired based on ideology. So it's no surprise that the people hired based on ideology are the ones that are being laid off. I mean, for a while, it was even a prestigious thing to brag about you as a company, how many women you got. Instead of like saying, okay, this is how many titles we sold, this is how great our games are, this is how well our games are, we managed to have like 35% women this year, and it's like so great, so amazing. It's like, no other business does that, right? Like outside of America, you go to Eastern Europe, like in Romania is actually considered to be one of the best countries in Europe that fix the gender pay gap. We don't do that shit. It's like, oh yeah, here at our bakery, we hire like 70%. No one cares. The bakery talks about how good the sweets are, how good the dough is, like that. That's what we're talking about, right? That's called professionalism. Like you're talking about the product, not the people who are making the... No one cares who's making the product. The customer doesn't give a fuck. But that's the thing, right? Like they were pretending as if the customer cares. In other words, BlackRock cared, right? The investors cared. The journalists care. The customer doesn't care. Like when I play a video game, I have no idea the faces or how the developer looks, nor do I give a fuck. The only thing I care is if the game is fun. And it turns out that many of the games weren't fun. So now they have to fire people. And they're firing the people that they didn't want to hire in the first place. Because I'm willing to bet they're not going to fire... Like if you have a female game developer that does remarkable work... And she crunches and she's sitting there in the trenches and she's doing her best in order to make the game better. I highly doubt that they're going to fire her. Why would they? Why would they? Like, if you're cutting costs and you're desperate to make more money, why would you fire the person that's actually contributing, huh? Like all of these companies that were feminist 2 years ago are all of a sudden misogynistic. Overnight. For no reason whatsoever. All of a sudden they decided, yeah, we're going to be misogynistic now. No, of course not. It's not about that. It's the fact that they were hiring people that they wanted to use as, I guess, like trophies. You know, it's like, oh, look at the numbers, look at the percentages. Isn't this great? And also, I will tell you this, you know, this is something that's not very discussed, but there isn't that much inclusivity in the HR department. Like in the HR departments, it's almost exclusively women. Like very rarely will you find a man that's a diversity officer or a man that's an HR. So if you're going to fire the HR because you're like, oh shit, well, you know, we can still produce a product without the HR. Like they're not that important for the company. We need to cut costs. You're going to end up firing a lot of women just simply because like that's what the department is like. So if you want to fire the entire department, you're going to end up with this gender fighting gap, which the media doesn't want to explain and is casting it away on misogyny. It's not misogyny. It can be explained through other reasons, especially like again, all these companies that were championing feminism 2 years ago, all of a sudden, no, I don't buy that. Like people don't change that fast. Let me know what you guys think though. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.